discuss the possible repercussions of this ongoing war. The Automobile Association of South Africa is warning that the ongoing fighting or escalation in the Middle East conflict could push fuel prices higher for already strained South African consumers. Preliminary mid-month data pointing to a 93-octane petrol crossing the 25 Rand a litre mark in May. That's provided that should the current trends continue. AA spokesperson is Layton Beard, who joins us now for a conversation on this. Layton, good evening to you and thank you for your time. How much more of this pain can consumers continue to take?
Yeah, good evening, Xoli. I don't think many of them can take much more. I think when you look at how budgets are being stretched at the moment, people are in financial pain. There is absolutely no question about that. And everything that adds to that pain becomes more and more unbearable. And you find people are having to cut some very important items out of their budgets. So, unfortunately for many people, the ability to travel independently with their own vehicle, and even on public transport, which is, likely to become more expensive, is something that they have no other choice but to do. If you want to get to work, if you have a job and you're fortunate enough to have a job and you want to get to work, you have to make a plan to do that. And, that's why I say people are having to cut back on some essential things to actually afford that fuel price. And, I think for very many people, when they see that the oil prices are going up, it's a huge, huge concern to them.
Yeah. For those people, Layton, who may not understand the direct link between the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and the correlation, therefore, to the oil prices in South Africa, are you able to make that link for us?
So there are two main factors that drive the local fuel price. And I say two main factors. There are others, but the two main factors are obviously the Rand-US dollar exchange rate, because we're buying this fuel on an international market using US dollars. And the product that we buy is obviously the oil, the international product that we buy. So if the product is high and the value of the Rand against the dollar is low, in other words, our bang for buck is diminished, then that does have a direct relation on what people are going to pay locally. If the Rand is low and oil is high, that means that there is an inevitable price increase on the horizon. And obviously the inverse is also true. And those international oil prices, Xoli, to prevent maybe, a follow-up question, are driven really by very many different factors. We're seeing a lot of OPEC countries curbing their output. Obviously, there's supply issues. Is it getting to where it needs to get so that it can be transported, effortlessly? Is that becoming more expensive? Are ships having to divert because of whatever problems in a specific area? That's going to add a lot of cost to that as well. And so we are seeing that oil is becoming more expensive. In fact, Brent crude, which is the benchmark oil used internationally, is around 16% higher today than it was at the beginning of the year, which gives you an indication of where that fuel is headed. So when that becomes more expensive and our buying power becomes diminished, it means that we have to pass that on, and that, not we, but the government passes that on to consumers, and that's why we see the increases that we do on a monthly basis.
Final question, Layton. The Department of Energy, is there a role for them to play at all in these circumstances, the circumstance that you've just explained, where the factors that determine oil prices are almost external?
Sure. The factors that determine the oil prices are external. The factors that determine the Rand-US dollar exchange rate, many of those are internal. Are we creating an economic environment that is investor friendly? Are we dealing effectively with the value of our currency against the greenback? And are there measures we can take to improve the value of the Rand against the US dollar? So these are things that I think internally we need to be discussing. In terms of the fuel pricing structure, Xoli, we've been calling for a very long time as the AA for a review of the mechanism that comprises that structure. There are a lot of taxes on that. Many people say simply take the taxes out. Our view is if you take them out of the fuel price, the government will just find another avenue to collect that really large amount that is generated by that. So yes, A simple answer to your question is absolutely the DMRE has a very critical and vital role to play in terms of the fuel pricing. We think that one way that they should be doing immediately is to review that fuel pricing structure in an open process so that we can determine whether all the elements that are there are needed and are calculated correctly, and whether there's anything we can do in that environment to mitigate against the higher prices. People are suffering, and I think for government to do that would be a signal that they understand that as well.
Layton Beard speaks for the Automobile Association of South Africa. Thank you very much for your time and indeed that clarity.